Joining me now is best-selling author and commentator Douglas Murray. Make sure you pick up his latest international bestseller, The War on the West. Douglas, let's start with the presidential pardon. Hunter Biden has the broadest, most sweeping pardon imaginable, and it comes after the Biden White House insisted that no one was above the law and that a pardon was unthinkable.
Well, as you say, Rita, not only did they say that no one was above the law and say that because of Hunter Biden and because they believe that all judicial processes in America must be absolutely followed and that somebody whose name happens to be Biden is absolutely the same as anyone with any other name. They also said it, of course, during the repeated attempts to prosecute Donald Trump for a whole range of issues. In America, if you set a special prosecutor or a district attorney after somebody, they look for crime and they tend to find one. They'll find some difference between what somebody said in one interview 3 years ago and what they said in yesterday's interview, and then they'll say, evading justice and so on. So this was a comment that Biden made about Trump, but now he says no one is above the law except for my son and certain other favorites. It's not surprising. And on a human level, of course, you know, his son has had untold difficulties that he has got through, and it must be very disturbing for Joe Biden as a father. However, the pardon, of course, doesn't just cover things that he's already been convicted of. It covers things that he could yet be convicted of in relation to the period that his father is in office. And that is pretty unprecedented so far as I know.
Yes, and it starts in 2014 when Burisma came on the scene for the Biden family. The entire thing is astonishing. Staying in America, what a difference a landslide election makes. It wasn't long ago that the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, was taking pot shots at Donald Trump, but last week he was at Mar-a-Lago, all smiles, dining with the president-elect. He even went on X and tweeted a thank you to the president. But Douglas, we have since learned about what the pair talked about at the dinner table.
It's about that Trump-Trudeau dinner from two people who were at the table. We are told that when Trudeau told President-elect Trump that new tariffs would kill the Canadian economy, Trump joked to him that if Canada can't survive without ripping off the U.S. to the tune of $100 billion a year, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state and Trudeau could become its governor.
Governor Justin Trudeau. Oh, I love that. Diplomacy through strength is straight from the Trump playbook. Douglas, what do you make of Justin Trudeau's attempts to cozy up to Trump after taking veiled shots at him for several years now?
Well, it's typical of the undiplomatic diplomacy, which we've discussed before about other countries when it comes to Trump. You know, if there are two people running for office in your nearest ally, it's very unwise to repeatedly lie about and make false claims about one of them. And that's whichever way around you'd like to play it. It'd be very unwise for people like Trudeau or the Labour Party in Britain or in Australia or anywhere else to have insulted one of the other candidates in the election. As it happened, the one they chose to insult is the one that happens to have won. So it's rather delicious watching, rather more delicious even than dinner, I'm sure, watching the Bimbo Trudeau trying to now make up for his undiplomatic diplomacy. As for being governor of Canada, all I say is, I mean, Justin Trudeau has been such a hideous prime minister of Canada. I wouldn't trust him to be governor of anything. Other than going back to drama teaching, and I really pity his students even on that. I don't know what Trudeau is good for. He's a narcissistic little playboy who has been vastly over-promoted above his competency. And the only person who doesn't seem to realize it is him. But I mean, the Canadian public have a great opportunity quite soon to wave farewell or to steal the line to turn the page in Canada.
Turn the page. Yes, I love your line about Justin Trudeau. I think you called him once the Prince of Performative Caring, and I think that sums him up beautifully. And if the polls are right, his days are numbered. So I don't think Donald Trump needs to worry too much about tariffs discussions with Justin, because he's on the way out. Sticking with Donald Trump, what do you make of the president-elect's threats against Hamas, warning he will unleash hell in the Middle East if the October 7 hostages held by Hamas are not released before inauguration, which is January 20? Is that something that's going to be effective? You've spent a great deal of time in the Middle East in the past year. Is a warning like this going to have any sort of impact?
I think so. I hope so. I was actually, as it happens, with some of the hostage families yesterday again. And of course, they say that, that they want the release yesterday. They want it yesterday, not tomorrow, not on January the 20th or any other time. And the fact is that the pressure that Donald Trump threatens to bring can be brought. And it can be brought not just against Hamas, but it should be brought against all of the governments in the region who have been backing and arming and training Hamas. The mullahs in Tehran should feel the full force of American power as they have Israeli power. Hezbollah, the government in Qatar, the corrupt Hamas-supporting, Hamas-owning government of Qatar, the government of Turkey, which is now hosting more of the Hamas leaders than it did a few weeks ago. These governments should really feel that force and that pressure. And it can be diplomatic, it can be economic, or it can be something else. But a very clear message needs to be sent. Hamas started this war by murdering, slaughtering, and kidnapping Israelis. These hostages should have been released on 8th of October, and if they had have been 2023, and if they had have been, this war could have been avoided. But they started the war, and the only person that can really end the war is them, by handing back the hostages and, alongside it, making it clear that this will never happen again. This is in their power, and only some of the dimmer bits of the international media and parts of the Biden administration ever thought otherwise. The hostages are not being held by Benjamin Netanyahu. They are being held by Hamas. Hamas has to release them. It has to release them now.
Now to France, and after extensive damage, the magnificent Notre Dame will be formally reopened by French President Emmanuel Macron. But Douglas, Pope Francis will not be there. He will not be at the December 7 reopening, in a move that has upset many, including a number of French bishops. What do you make of this decision? You'd think the Pope could surely change his plans to attend the reopening of such a significant cathedral.
It is slightly surprising. I don't know, maybe it's health reasons, maybe it's something else. But when you mention the significance of Notre Dame, I mean, I think that I hope that the reopening really does remind the French and other publics of what was almost lost there. Everybody remembers those horrific photos of Notre Dame on fire. And the fear that I think any civilized person has that we could have lost this great tribute to faith and more. And sometimes when you come very close to losing something like that, it should make you love it and think about it more. And I hope the French and other publics do. It's not just that Notre Dame is a stunning work of architecture. It's also a cathedral of faith. And we'll see, but maybe the public and the reopening of this can remind people of that. I certainly hope that Emmanuel Macron and others in the French government don't simply regard this as being a fine restoration of a mere piece of French history. It's far more than that.
Absolutely, culturally so significant. The Pope has prior engagements, so he is expected elsewhere, but I just would have thought this was significant enough to change those plans. Before you go, I want to play you a little clip from California Governor and possible future Democrat presidential candidate Gavin Newsom. He's incredibly boasting about California's record in tackling homelessness.
We have a national model. What Proposition 1 did is it reinforced that model, provided more resources to advance that model, and we're very excited to get those dollars to work.
Oh, goodness me. The Democrats don't have a great deal of talent, so he is still up there as a prime candidate to be the future presidential candidate. And he's boasting there about California's record, despite the fact that the state is responsible for 1 in 2 unsheltered people in all of America. And they have this enormous issue, Douglas, with homelessness, with crime, with illicit drug abuse. Despite huge resources being devoted to tackling these issues, they're spending around $47,000 a year per homeless person, and yet the problem doesn't seem to be diminishing.
No, because idiots like Gavin Newsom have done a number of things in recent years. They have incentivized illegal migration. They have incentivized people moving into their state. They have made sure to punish everyone who is law-abiding. People like shop owners who don't like human feces on the pavement outside their stores. They've made sure to punish all legal homeowners in California, whereby you can get an illegal encampment or an illegal tent or homeless throwing up of a shelter, temporary shelter of some kind, on somebody else's property. And there's nothing that the people can do about it. There's nothing that the law-abiding, hard-working taxpayer that we always hear about is actually allowed to do when it comes to dealing with an often illegal, non-tax-paying, law-breaking person who's squatting. And I'm afraid Governor Newsom created that situation. He created it in San Francisco. He created it across California. This is his fault. So when he starts to boast he's getting to work and putting tax dollars to work, first of all, good luck on the tax dollars thing, because he's been superb at chasing talent and high net worth individuals out of his state. But secondly, I mean, he's just simply not fit to do this because he made the problem. And if he wanted to stop the problem, he could stop the sanctuary cities nonsense. He could stop the rewarding of illegal behavior. He could do all of that, but he doesn't. So these are totally, totally hollow words. I'm afraid I used the word bimbo about the Canadian Prime Minister earlier, but Gavin Newsom is the same mold. He is a narcissistic little playboy who has never solved a real problem. He wants to preen for the cameras, but he has done so much to destroy the state he pretends to govern.
He is certainly very good at preening, but you can't deny the fact that he is attractive and charismatic means something. To me, he is the front runner for the Democrats. Do you think there's anybody else who stands out? So they're saying that Kamala Harris wants to run again in 4 years, God forbid. Can you see that happening?
I hadn't heard that rumor, Rita. I would have thought that if Kamala wants to run again, even the Democrats have enough survival instinct to be able to say, didn't work out so well last time.
I think you're right. After $1 billion being squandered in record time, I think her chances are very, very small indeed. Douglas Murray, thank you so much for your time this evening.
It's a pleasure as always. Thank you.